You ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is ADWCTA.
And for the first time in a long time, this is Merps. Welcome back to me, and you're welcome, guys, for coming back. It's Merps. Hello.
Okay. We actually need to figure this out again. We're gonna redo that because your audio is heavily. I mean, your video is heavily like slow. I don't know if it's my end or something. Hold on. Say
It's
stuff.
your. Wait, what do you mean it's slow? It looks fine on the stream.
Does it really look fine on the stream?
Yeah, it looks fine on the stream itself.
You're like a whole second behind. Sulin, thanks for the sub. 14 months. Okay, chat. We need you to figure this out. Is Merps like a full like second behind his lips?
Merps' video is a bit delayed and jittery. I don't see myself as jittery on the stream.
You're not jittery. You're just like delayed. Yeah. Oh, your video's jagged. I don't know. I just see your audio being delayed.
I don't know. That's really weird.
Say A B C.
A B C D E.
Okay, you gotta move your lips. I'm trying to look at your lips here.
Okay. A B C D E F G.
Okay, you're delayed. You're delayed. I'm gonna artificially delay your audio.
N O P Q R S T U V W X Y and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Welcome to the new podcast.
Okay. Say more stuff. I just did something.
There's always like 26 letters in the alphabet, man.
No, that didn't help.
Okay, well, I could do like that drunk test where I say the alphabet backwards.
Yeah.
The problem I've always had with that, chat, even if I'm sober, I can't do it. Like, there's no way I can do it. Like, all right. So if I got pulled over and there was like, all right, we need to test if you're drunk or not. Recite the alphabet backwards. Okay, so it would be Z Y X. Shit. W. Okay, and then Q R X T U V V. It's so hard. How is that a test? How is that an actual test? Like, there's no way. Like, I get the like ZYX, and then I had to struggle to get W, and then I can't. My mind just can't process it. Okay, like.
Okay, Merps.
And this is 200 IQ Merps here.
Okay, Merps. I think
What?
you're sending me. I think you're trying to send me too high quality of video. Can
What?
you like drop your videos like resolution? Because my camera does this too, where when I try to make my camera do like the most things, it kind of like slows down a bit. Because like what's happening isn't an OBS issue; it's like a Discord issue. Like I'm just like you're just slow on Discord.
Oh, yeah. So Discord also uses Google Cloud.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Really?
It does. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, then you'll just be jagged today, then I guess.
Yeah. So Google Cloud outage brings down Snapchat, Spotify, Discord, blah 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 blah.
Okay.
Yep.
All
It
right.
uses Google Cloud, and Google Cloud is having issues right now, like network issues.
Well, still, is there a way for you to make yourself send me less packets? So maybe Google will process less.
How do I do that? Chat. How do I do that?
Like, go to your
Discord.
settings, and yeah. I think you could like select settings on like your video on what you're actually outputting.
Video, output volume, input sensitivity, video settings.
Yeah. Is there a way to like just like tap it at like 720 or 760 or whatever that is instead of whatever you're sending me?
No, I don't see that right now.
One sec.
Voice and video, images.
Yeah, because when you share a screen, right, you can share at different frame rates, at different stream quality. There's got to be a way to do that on video too.
Appearance. I don't know. I'm imagining that Discord, would just automatically do it. Like if they see that you
Yeah.
can't handle it, it would just do it. Like that's what most programs do, right?
Yeah.
Like
I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I don't find the options either.
I don't see an option to cap it.
God
Like,
damn Discord. Okay.
but
Well, you will be in the spirit of mechs. You will be robotic and jaggedy coming across.
beep boop.
All right. I mean, you
And
sound
I'll
fine.
have echo. Just like
No,
Snipstat.
you sound fine. Okay, great. Let's start officially. All right, 3, 2, 1.
Wait, no,
No,
what? You can't just
Okay. All right.
like.
Let me know when you're ready.
We have. Jesus, wow, terrible at this. Okay, now we can go wherever.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is ADWCTA.
Hello, guys. For the first time in a long time, this is Merps back at it, going to give you what you guys needed, all right, which is the truth about Hearthstone Arena. I've spent 2 months going undercover, digging into all of the conspiracies that you have wondered.
So you know. So please tell us what is Blizzard thinking and doing?
Well, first, I would like to thank all of your co-hosts who you've gotten to replace me so far. Kept the seat warm, But
there's one more coming. You're coming back, but in 2 weeks you're gone again for a week.
Yeah, I'm gone because I'm going to Pokemon Go Fest 2019. That's spending hundreds of dollars for a digital collection game. People, talk about spending hundreds of dollars for a children's card game, but I am spending it for a RNG slot machine with Pokemon skins. Anyways, so I have spent the past 2 months just sort of like relaxing, taking time, but also playing a bit of Hearthstone as well. You guys know I can't stay away. So I have played through the Rogue Evil Miscreant meta, and then I played through the recent Conjurer's Calling meta as well.
Dude, you have no idea. You have no idea how many people are like, so Merps quit because the meta is that bad, huh? And I'm like, no, but maybe I don't know. And then I talk to you, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm still playing." I'm like, "What?" That was gonna be one of the bonuses of taking some time off.
Still playing is sort of. I think I've done maybe 8 runs since the meta has started total.
Okay.
So I played a few days after the rotation first hit. Got 12 with Rogue, because I was just like, all right, well, is this as overpowered as people are saying it is? And it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a 12 with a Paladin because I high rolled and I got 3 Grime Street Protectors. So that was pretty good.
Nice.
And then I just kept on playing like 1 run every week and a half or so. And then recently, with the Conjurer's Calling sort of buff, not really buff, but like, mages offering rates were increased. That was not so fun for me or for my opponent. I felt bad for my opponents because
did you just start playing mage all the time?
Not all the time. I played 2 mages, and both times I had one time I had 2 conjurers and one time I only had 1, but I also had double magic trick, so I just like
got more conjurers.
But in both decks, I also had at least 1 Nerubian Prophet, because it's
of course, if you're drafting mage, just pick Nerubian Prophets. That's what the whole deck is.
It's already a good
conjures.
Yeah, it's already a good card in a bucket in which I'd probably pick it most of the time anyways. So it's just super high priority, and you just kind of win off of that.
Yeah, big time racketeer or small time racketeer. I can't remember what the guy's called.
It's big time, racketeer,
big time racketeer. Big time racketeer is
who
is the
has
small
been the one playing?
I don't know names or numbers or you know how I roll.
All right,
So what are your impressions of the overall meta? So we have had rogue dominance, then we have had warlock dominance, and then we have had the more even meta for the last 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks.
It's been fairly, I would say, even. People are kind of high on Warlock still. Mage has been really good. But I see people, and by the way, I've been lurking in quite a few streams. People have been finding success with quite a few classes. Like I know Dreads recently got some 12 wins with Priest. People have found some success with Token Druid as well. So I would say the meta has been balanced. But once again, balance does not mean good, right? And this is something that we keep on talking about. Balance does not, like, perfectly balanced does not mean good.
Well,
And
technically
balance
balanced
also doesn't mean fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been pretty good. I mean, I don't usually. I guess by this point in metas, I don't usually have like almost all the classes of 12 win under my belt, and I have in this like series of things. So it's been pretty good for diversity. And I was close with the other ones too. Like the ones I don't have like 11 or 12, I got like 10 on. And I only play like, I don't know, maybe like 5 runs for most of these classes. So
Yeah.
it's pretty good. The meta's not too bad. Like there's some softening that happened in the meta. Like, so I think maybe what Blizzard's doing is actually working. Because one of the whole things with this whole, like, wild cards coming back, rotation system, whatever, arena stuff, is that it's meant to get some of the casuals excited and back in the arena. There's a lot of waiting time, so I don't know if it's actually working, but the meta's also been softer than I think it usually is. So, I don't know. I'm waiting for Blizzard to throw us some numbers and be like, look, Arena's done so much better than it's done before with our new system, so you guys can just like be a little more quiet about balance and, you know, your veteran like try hardness while we make Arena more accessible to people.
Maybe I would be interested in seeing it. I could totally see them coming out with some numbers and basically saying this has been an overwhelming success, and it's easy for me to see how that could have happened as well, just because previous to this rotation kind of thing, Arena was also standard, right? And it's like, oh, okay, you want standard Arena because you want the card pool to be exactly the same. But then after they changed it to this rotation, they could have been like, well, this is one way to actually differentiate Arena. So this actually gives a different experience, not just in the play style, in the limited format and drafting of the cards, but also you get to play with these new cards, or like, you know, quote, new cards that you don't really get to play with because you can't get that experience anywhere else, right? Because it's not wild. It's not like a free-for-all wild, and it's obviously not standard. So it's just this new sort of league. And if you want to participate it, well, you can't find that in standard. You can't find that in wild, and you obviously can't find it in Tavern Brawl. So, you know, we have created this actual differentiated experience, and because of that, people are, you know, more so than before, flocking to Arena. I could see that.
Well, we'll see. They should give us some numbers, right? If it is a success, that should be like the easy thing, like for them to do. And that goes with what we were predicting they were doing, right? Where like balance is going to be crap. You know, they're not going to be on top of their game, but it's becoming more of an event mode, and who likes event modes, right? Like casual players and like people who like step in for a bit. So at least tell us that it's a success in that area, right? Because it's been a little shaky, I think, on a lot of the fronts for us tryhards. Okay, so that's all in the past. That's been done. We are now looking into the future in the first mid like expansion rotation, right? This is the exciting time in the arena. Whatever numbers they have or don't have on the first arena experiment, this is going to determine whether this whole system is a success or not. Because we're in the middle of a meta, right? And Blizzard hasn't just, like, they're committing to this more than just with Arena. Because in Arena, they're rotating a bunch of sets out. But in Standard, remember that Boomsday was always in Standard. And Boomsday had 2 cards be buffed from each class. So they're shaking Standard up at the same time for Constructed as they are shaking up the Arena and the rotation. So Blizzard's coming out now, and it seems like, you know, assuming this doesn't get hugely negative feedback, that Blizzard's just going to roll with this. There's not going to be, like, 3 giant meta blocks the way we think of them. Or, like, an unbalanced meta that gets balanced. It's going to be 6 instead per year, which is not too many. The real problem is how well they get balanced, right? Like, with a small amount of time. But this is the rise of the mechs, and Arena is one of the focus on it, especially for players who maybe want to play in a more mech like experience and who don't have all the old cards. Yeah, so yeah, let's. We have our algorithm in the Lightforge tier list. It is up. It has everything calculated. We got like a dozen cards we're still like fixing because they're old cards, and when they come back, some of them come back weirdly. But we have everything else working, and so we can give you some like numbers and impressions and things, and we'll get to that. We'll get to some not specific numbers because they have to be recentered and everything moves in One Piece moves. So they're going to be like, we'll say plus minus like 2 to 4 points of what they'll end up being when you guys see it, and they will be up on Monday at some point. If they're not up at the exact time that Blizzard makes this Rise of the Mechs live, it's going to be up soon after. Like we can't promise exactly what hour it's going to be up because we do need to run another recalc and update all the numbers overnight tonight. But anyway, first impressions, Merps. What are you looking forward to for this set? What was your first reaction when they put the mechs together and they put out the set list for this next rotation?
Totally not surprised. Totally not surprised. Come on. This is one of those things where as soon as they introduced this rotation format, like 2.5 months ago, right? 3 months ago, like during that time, this is something that the Arena community immediately was like, oh man, like they can put out all the mech sets together, right? It's like, oh, we can combine all of these sets that thematically make sense, but were never possible. And the first idea was, oh, Boomsday plus GVG, because these have never overlapped before, and these are both about mechs. So that was like one of the first ideas that really popped up in the forums and on Reddit as well. So I wasn't surprised about it at all, because I knew at some point within the first few rotations they do it, because that is the perfect way for them to be like, look, this is something new that we can offer, right? Like this synergy between these two very far apart expansions that have like very same themes. So I was totally not surprised. I would have like bet a decent amount of money on it happening during this rotation. So for the surprise factor, very, very, very low.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really have any idea where they were going with it, but I'm happy that they brought this out now because this is going to be terrible in terms of balance, and we're in the ROS meta, and ROS has some cards that I just don't think you can get a very balanced game out of it anyway. So, like, this is the time to do it, Like, if Blizzard has any intention of balancing the arena, next expansion is the time to do it, not when ROS has this offering bonus. So, like, this is a very good time to put the mechs out. And I think the first thing I'm going to put out here, numbers-wise, is that I don't know how many mechs people think are going to be in the arena, but we ran the numbers. It's not as much as you may think if you're thinking there's going to be mechs just everywhere. It's definitely, more than when we were in Boomsday, and it's definitely enough that all of your magnetic stuff will hit quite frequently. So it is going to feel very mechy. But for people who are just thinking that all the decks are going to be just mech, that's not going to happen. And that's a good thing, right? Because you get some diversity in there, you get some other deck archetypes in. You have your hero power archetypes with Inspire, that like Snowball, you have some control archetypes, you have things you can do, right, that are not mech related. But our numbers are showing something around the same level of mechs in every deck as you normally see beasts in Hunter. Like,
which is a decent amount.
It's a decent amount. You're not going to enter this meta and be like, oh, are we in a mech meta? Like, yes, we're in a mech meta. But it's not going to be like in Hunter. There's oftentimes where you need a beast and you don't have one, right? Or and very frequently you need a beast on the board and you don't have one on the board. Like that happens so often as Hunter. That's going to happen to you as mechs. So I think this is a good balance in terms of how many mechs are actually in the meta.
Yeah, I think that that's good because I mean, we don't want everything to be defined by who gets Mech Warper out on turn 2, right? And we don't want it to be like, well, the first person that gets any mech down, and then you just follow it up with magnetized stuff, you win. And you don't want it to be just a mech fest. You want there to be an actual risk assessment when there are stuff on the board. It's like, do I kill the 2/2 with 2/2 mech, or do I kill like the 3/3 non-mech, right?
Yep.
Stuff like that. Like this is important for gameplay in the arena.
Yep. And yeah, so in terms of other things with the meta that's coming in, we'll go into more specifics after this, but in a very general way, right? Like lots of 2s, because they're all old sets. Like besides Boomsday, all the sets coming in are old. And the old sets are great at 2-drops. So there's a lot of them coming in. They're not the best 2-drops. You have like Flame Juggler, kind of like holding down the fort as the most annoying tempo-based 2-drops. The rest
it's
aren't.
So annoying.
Like,
I don't know why I hate Flame Juggler so much more than Mad Bomber.
Right, the Mad Bomber.
I do, like,
because Mad Bomber feels fair for some reason, even though it's so not fair.
It feels so totally fair, and Flame Juggler feels like the worst design card ever made, and I can't explain it.
No, Flame Juggler should be better in terms of like less swingy than freaking Mad Bomber. But I'm with you. When you play a 2/3 and the Flame Juggler hits the board, and you're like, well, if it hits it, we're dead. If it doesn't hit, we're good. It's a terrible
I really don't know why that like Flame Juggler, just whether it's my Flame Juggler or the opponent's Flame Juggler, like I never had a good time with it. And Mad Bomber, I'm always like, Bomber, you know what? Even if it totally messes up, I'm like, Bomber, that's my bad. You know, I didn't believe enough. I know you're still a bro. We're still good. We'll get him next time, Bomber. But with Flame Juggler, I'm like, this is the effing last time. You know, like you have just used up all goodwill that you had, and you didn't have much, Flame Juggler. Like I just get so pissed at Flame Juggler.
Yeah,
but Bomber, that's always my bro.
Get ready for Flame Juggler to be in the meta. I don't know where they're going to end up putting Flame Juggler, but it is right now going to come in as the top 2-drop outside of Knife Juggler, which is not a 2-drop. It's just a 2-mana card. HenchClan Hogsteed, which is ridiculous, and we know it's ridiculous, and for some reason it's underbucketed. They better like rebucket during this somehow and like actually move this stuff up. Like, are people still not taking HenchClan Hogsteed in its like 5th bucket or wherever like low bucket it's at?
I think a lot of people still don't.
They don't. They have to not be, or else Blizzard won't be like, our buckets are fine. So like I don't know what to do about that. I'm just tired of HenchClan Hogsteeds ruining the meta. Eccentric Scribes too, but Flame Juggler is also going to be below this new card, Recombobulator, coming back. Do you remember the days of Recombobulator being one of the craziest cards that existed in the game?
No, I don't. First of all, I mean, it has been a while. Second of all, you know what? Recombobulator was a card in which we didn't really think too much of it, and mostly just because a lot of times boards weren't okay. Like, guys, if you want to think back, all right, think back way before then. Boards were just like not as complicated. Boards were like a lot simpler, so you didn't have to fear the Recombobulator as much. And at the same time, you didn't have like all these really understated high drops that do something. You know what I mean? Like there were not really like tons of big time racketeers. There weren't like, you know, all of these huge cards that have a big effect or really polarized stats, right? Like what's one that they just printed recently? Oh, the 2/14 Taunt Divine Shield, God. Right? Like it's like thinking about how we viewed Recombobulator versus how a Recombobulator, like how we would think about that now. It's totally different just because of the way that the meta has shifted, number one. And number two, the cards that have come out since then. So before, it was more so like your 3/2 facing a 3/2, a 4/5 like facing a 4/5, and then like so clearing it was easier, expectations were easier, and because of all these big drops, like you didn't have all these big drops that just does a very powerful thing, and with a very small body, or have really polarized stats so you can always turn that 8-drop into another 8-drop. No, like the big drops back then were like War Golem, Captured Yormonger, which is coming back, right?
Force Tank Max.
Force Tank Max, right? So you had these things, but it wasn't like weird. It wasn't meant to delay the game even more.
Yeah.
Like with Force Tank Max as well, it's like, oh, that's a recombobulator target too.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it is, but it's also just a game ender, right? Like a lot of times, if you're putting down a Force Tank Max, you're ending the game. If you're putting down that 212 or 214 taunt divine shield, you're extending the game, so recombobulator actually has a thing. So
and we're getting back there. We're getting back there in terms of the meta, even before this rotation, right? Like, what is Burly Shovelfist doing? That's not extending the game. That's ending the game, right? That's your big new ROS card that came in. That's giant and neutral. It has an impact in the arena. And so well, now that you're putting these old school cards back, everything's focused on ending the game rather than prolonging the game. I haven't done a taunt analysis. Normally I do a taunt analysis to see how much taunts are going down or up or whatever, but it's kind of useless here. There's no taunts left. There's just no taunts left. No large taunts left, period. I'm not counting. Huh? Wait, what did you say?
Oh, no, it was just me maniacally.
Oh, okay. But yeah, there's no taunts left. No big taunts. Taunts are all very small, very easy to get rid of. And, Sunwalker is your most terrible, big, scary taunt now. And it is not terrible or big or scary by modern standards. So everything is designed to get you on the board, play on the board, and then when it gets to the high manas, it ends the game, right? Burly Shovelfist right in line with that. Force Tank Max coming back. I don't know, but not a lot of people have made a lot of, including us, right? We kind of overlooked Force Tank Max too. But then we ran the algorithm. Force Tank Max is going to be pretty damn good. I think I kind of just forgot how good Force Tank Max was in the game, right? It's, if you guys don't remember it, it's an 8 mana 7/7 with a Divine Shield. Like, it doesn't seem like much, but that's a crap ton of stats if you can't ping that shield off. And if you can't destroy
that shield is real annoying.
Yeah, and if you can't destroy it, that's 7 damage to the face.
Yep.
So yeah, and in case you guys are wondering, and I know a lot of people wonder this, but I think the consensus among most people, the vast majority of people, is the same, and it is true. Burly Shovelfist will be better than North Sea Kraken. It will be very slightly better than North Sea Kraken. The difference right now is 4 points. So they're basically pretty similar cards. North Sea Kraken gets to deal 4 damage, but then keep a lot more of its health. Burly Shovelfist will lose a bunch of its health, but gets to deal 9 whole damage. Right? North Sea Kraken can also be a literal game ender by going face with its 4 damage.
Right.
So they're similar, but Burly Shovelfist does win out, and this is coming from me, a well-known Burly Shovelfist hater. Every time I'm in chat, I'm drafting, I'm like, I think I'll skip the Shovelfist here. Chat goes crazy. Even if I already have one, I'm like, I already have one, guys. It's like, no, you get 3. 3 is the best. Sometimes I'll take 8. I'm just like, I don't know. These are 9 mana cards. I don't know why you're taking so many of them. I just want a curb.
Yeah, I know. Sad. The Captured Yormonger, I remember that thing used to be pretty good. Like, very draftable, and when it came down, I was always pretty happy about it because the 5/9 stat line was very decent, and now I'm just looking at it as perfect fodder for Shovelfist. So
I'll tell you what,
it's very different now.
This is something that I don't even know if the algorithm is right or anything, but Corehound is currently rated higher than Captured Jormonger by 2 points. I don't really have time to look into it, but it's doing a lot of complicated things. We're just gonna leave it like that for now.
I could totally see it. The algorithm is better than us, at collectively being like, here are all the sort of one-on-one individual matchups that you need to focus on, and then collectively, this is this is what happens.
I think it's just focused on Corehound being able to end games, and Jormonger not doing that.
I could totally see that. Like, I look at a card like Captured Jormonger now, I'm just like, I don't know. Well, it's also tough for me because I can't picture all of the mechs in my head, right? It's not
Yeah.
something I can just draw upon experience
Mhm.
because this is something brand new.
Yep. And with all the magnetics that could come, like mechs can get pretty big. Like I know we're coming from a meta where things are kind of there's not that many huge cards. A lot of the card advantage comes from like twin spells and like drawing a whole bunch of cards and like stuff like that, rather than big giant things popping down. Your big giant thing, Burly Shovelfist, is actually half dead by the time you can react to it. So in this new meta, there's actually going to be a decent number of like just like big things for you to hard remove, which is a departure from the prior meta and goes back to more of what we've seen in like the 2 years before this, where there were just giant things you wanted to hard remove. Here, it's probably less punishing if you let them stay on the board, but we'll see. The Inspire cards are a little punishing, which brings us to another theme, or it's Rise of the Mechs, but TGT is coming back, right? And when TGT comes back, people have PTSD from things like this is the best Inspire neutral card that is not a legendary. It is Kodo Rider, right now at a 140. 6 mana, 3/5 Inspire, summon a 3/5 War Kodo, which is just a vanilla minion. And so that means basically you play it at 8 mana, you get 2 3/5s, which add up to like an 8/8. One of which, if you don't remove, every turn you can pop out another 3/5, and you get whatever the hell your hero power does. So it's pretty okay as just like an 8 mana thing to play, and then if you don't remove that 5 health, it gets insane. Like, very huge snowball potential.
Yeah, Kodo Rider is going to be quite good. And with a lot of Inspire cards, part of the reason that people didn't like them was because it just asked your opponent, can you remove this right away, right? And if you can't, my win percentage just skyrockets you.
Yeah.
So Kodo Rider, that's something you pop that down on turn 8, and let's say you have an empty board, right? Your opponent can't just play a big thing, because if you're able to hero power next turn, you pretty much just win after getting a 2 mana 3/5 that doesn't take up a card.
Like,
right?
your opponent needs to like go face. Like, so many times it's like a Kodo Rider comes down. What happens? Oh, I go face. I don't remove the Kodo Rider.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things that really annoyed people. Same thing with Murloc Knight, right? Murloc Knight.
But Murloc Knight, we rate very low. We've always rated Murloc Knight very low. Even when we were annoyed by it, we rated it very low. Partly because of the RNG, partly because you actually you just save a removal for it, and it's kind of crappy. Like, I don't know. It's coming in at Yeti level right now, and I think that's a fair rating for it. It's I don't know. I think it got a lot of good press when it first came out because there was such a weird mix of Murlocs that existed, where Murloc Knight would just keep popping up. But with more diverse Murlocs available now, and a lot of the diverse Murlocs are just bad like body wise. It's just not as it's just not as intimidating. And so for 6 mana, what do you get? Like a 3/4, a 1/1, and like a 2/2. Like, that's okay. Like, no one's annoyed at that or anything. But what happens if it snowballs? You get more Murlocs. Most of those Murlocs don't even synergize with each other anymore. Right? This is not there's so much dilution has happened. You don't get your Murloc war leaders all the time anymore. Other Murlocs generally evolve a battle cry or like another Murloc being played for it to even do anything. So you just get a bunch of small stuff. Yeah, it's a nice bonus compared to your just 1/1 hero power, but it's not going to win you as many games as say Kodo Rider.
No, and the thing that was really, really powerful when Murloc Knight first came out was you had a much higher percent chance to get Murloc Knight Inspire into another Murloc Knight.
Yeah, and then you just win.
And then you just win. That is the ultimate win, right? And, which is also why people were pissed off at it. And I remember when TGT first came out, people were just not prepared for Inspire, right? Surprise, surprise, new mechanic. People didn't really know how to play.
It's a really complicated mechanic too.
Right. And we were in sort of the meta before that, pretty much the GVG meta, or there was Black Rock Mountain, but it was still pretty much the GVG meta, in
Mhm.
which it was just you knew what was going to happen, and then you never regretted using removal because
Yeah.
you kind of knew what would happen.
Yeah.
But then when Inspire came out, people didn't have this idea of saving removal, right,
Mhm.
and really cherishing it. So that when Inspire came out, they're like, "Oh crap, I lost to this Inspire," and then people just kind of figured it out. They're like, "Wait, all I have to do is just take a little bit more risk in the early and mid game and just save my
Yep.
removal." And then that's something which, as you have seen the arena community collectively get better, right, and
Right.
as the level of play gone up higher. That's something that's so intuitive to everyone now. It's like, wait,
Mhm.
wait, if I don't have to use this removal, I don't use it. And part of it is also just like so many weird threats are out now, so
Yeah.
you kind of have to do it
And
because
also,
they're,
like, the board flips so often that you may just need a
yeah,
removal to come back from it because your opponent did some weird thing that, like, got him, like, 18 tempos worth of stuff with his 8
right. It's
mana.
like we've lived through the Defile meta,
Yeah.
right? We've lived through the Defile meta and the Abyssal Enforcer and all of this all of this stupid stuff. So
Mhm.
I think people are going to be a lot more ready to deal with something like a Murloc Knight that
Yeah.
really did plague the arena for about a
It
good month right
Yeah,
after
for
it
a
came out.
month when it first came out,
Yeah.
it was the most complained about card like that had ever. It was like Flame Strike levels, more than Flame Strike even. It's just like
Yeah.
Blizzard, what were you thinking printing that? And this was like during the similar thing happened when hero replacement cards, like the Death Knights, came out,
Hmm.
where the entire community is just like, these are the most terrible, annoying things, and we were like, this is fine, like. We're sitting here, we're like, this is all you have to do to beat that. Like, they're really powerful cards, but you're good. Um, and yeah, with Murloc Knight, the pool of Murlocs that were released afterwards really nerfed it, and people got used to it. So it is definitely a card that has not aged well. Right, you're
No,
looking at cards that
no,
some cards
definitely
age
not.
well, some cards don't. This is a card that terrorized the arena, and you're gonna see it again, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my god!" It's like Zombie Chow, right? Like it did not age well. You see it now, and then we gave it a score, and it was like I don't know what it was. It was like a 130 maybe, and you're just like, "Oh, maybe like a 125," and you're just like, "Oh, so it's like significantly better than a Yeti, and that's about it." And we're like, "Yeah," but back in the day, being significantly better than a Yeti was like super premium. So, these are cards that didn't age well. A card that, for example, does age well, and we're going to go back to some neutrals now. Cards that have aged well, and these are going to be your top line cards. If you're wondering what the meta is going to run on, Henchclan Hogsteed, obviously still. Eccentric Scribe, obviously still. Dalaran Crusader, like these are your normal ones. Nothing's going to change with these. But the new ones coming in, Piloted Shredder is going to come in at around the same score as Scribe and Henchclan Hogsteed. So, still hugely dominant. If you don't know Piloted Shredder, you obviously did not play through the GVG meta or any of the metas for like 2 years after that. It is a 4 mana 4/3 Death Rattle, summon a random 2-drop. And it can be anything, and it's kind of a terribly designed card. It's fun, but depending on what 2-drop you get, it could be insanely good for tempo, or it could be like, oh, I just paid 4 mana for a 4/3. And on your 4 mana side, that's not over. Henchclan Hag, which, we rated pretty high right now, but it's really high in a mech meta because Henchclan Hag summons 2/1/1s that are mechs in addition to everything else. So that's also a really good card. Replicating Menace from Boomsday, that was always a top tier 4-drop. Now it's Magnetic is going to be even more useful, so it's even more of a top tier 4-drop. There's a lot of really good 4-drops, is basically what I'm saying. On the 5-drop side, you're not getting much. On the 6-drop side, Mechanical Whelp is coming back. Piloted Sky Golem is coming back. Piloted Sky Golem, by the way, remember when Eccentric Scribe came out? Some people were comparing it to a gimped Savannah Highmane, but neutral. Other people are comparing it to Piloted Sky Golem, because Piloted Sky Golem is also a 6/4. It's for 6 mana. Death Rattle, summon a random 4-cost minion instead of 4/1/1s. So that's going to be like basically around where Scribe is. And yeah, so you're going to get good 4s, good 6s. We talked about the good 2s. On the 3-drop side, It's all right. I mean, you were losing a bunch of 3/4s. You're gaining back Spider Tank. You're gaining Argent Horse Rider, which is a 3 mana 2/1 charge Divine Shield.
Yeah.
Charge coming back. This is before they figured out that life is better with Rush than Charge. But that's a card coming back, and it's gonna synergize nicely with Henchman Hogsteed in that your 3/2s are just gonna suck even more. But on the top end, Microtech Controller's coming back. 3 mana 2/1 Battlecry summon 2/1/1 Microbots, and Saboteur is coming back. 3 mana 4/3 Battlecry. Your opponent's hero power cost 5 more the next turn. These are great, but they're not at the same level as the other cards we were talking about. They're like, 120 to 130. The other cards were like 150. So your 3 drops are going to go into this dip, right? And I don't know, Merps. What was it like? Because a lot of our viewers and our listeners really have never played in a meta without powerful 3-drops. They played in a meta with overpower 3-drops, and they played in a meta where 3-drops are as good as any other drop. But for the longest time in Hearthstone meta, it was very, very well known, especially in Arena, but also in Constructed, that 3-drops, especially neutral 3-drops, are just underpowered on curve. And Blizzard just did that on purpose.
Yep. You youngins. All you know are 3 mana 3/4s. You didn't know the days when us Arena veterans had to walk uphill both ways just to buy an Arena ticket. This is why in the early days, Harvest Golem was the best. It wasn't just the best because it's a good 3-drop.
It's back up there because it's a mech.
It is back up there because it's a mech, but really, it was a cascading effect because all 3-drops were 3/3s. So you're missing a stat there. You're missing a key stat, and essentially what happened was it shifted 2-drops to 3/2s. 2/3s were pretty much just useless. 3/2s were the way to go, and then 3/2s took care of basically every single 3-drop because you had 3/3s and you had 4/3s, right? So you had something like Injured Blade Master. That was something that you saw quite often.
Violent Illusionist coming back.
Violent Illusionist is coming back, but because of that, Harvest Golem it perfectly took care of their 2-drop while still giving you a very useful 2/1 body that was left over. So it was back in those days where the meta was just, it's like, okay, well, you start with a 2-drop, right? And then it's like, you do something on 3, it doesn't really matter what, and then you just drop your Yeti or Paladin Shredder, and then the game can really begin.
Yep.
That was pretty much it. So for those of you who have played the recent metas, especially the meta before this rotation, where the game really started on turn 3 with a 4/4 or a 3/4, it was quite different back then because Blizzard for a couple of years really just ignored the 3 slot and just printed a lot of stuff that wasn't powerful. And certainly they waited a while to and then flooded the arena with all of these neutral good 3-drops.
So 3s and 5s were the traditional weak areas, and Blizzard had done it on purpose so that you would have known power spots at 2 and 4 and 6, and it would control the game more so that it didn't just become Curvestone. Except, of course, as we know, the game did just become Curvestone, and Blizzard got more creative in how they solved Curvestone. And once they solved that, they're like, well, now there's no reason to not print 3s and 5s that are powerful on curve. So that's all good for history lesson. But the important part to know is that we're going right back there. There's no powerful 3 or 5 drops. Or there's one, I'm going to take that back. There's one powerful 3-drop and one powerful 5-drop on curve. Powerful 3-drop is called Microtech Controller. The powerful 5-drop is called $1 Crusader. And that's it. If you don't have those, you're taking a huge step down into your old traditional 3 and 5-drop placeholders, which is Silver Hand Knight levels, or Harvest Golem, Scarlet Crusader, Spider Tank levels. Pit Fighter, right? That's coming back. and yeah, like Tiger, Stranglethorn Tiger. And they're just not as powerful as your piloted shredders and your Henge Clan Hogsteeds and your like eccentric scribes. So once you start it's hard to describe, but once you start playing it, you'll realize that your goal on turn 3 and 5 changes from what you have known 3s and 5s to be, which is just like any other turn. Instead, it is just to win the 2-drop battle on turn 3 and set yourself up with an extra 1-1 or 2-1 or 3-1 or whatever for your upcoming 4-drop battle. And similarly, your 5-drop battle is going to try to set you up for your 6-drop battle or your 4-drop plus 2-drop battle, depending on which way you go with that. Because obviously you wouldn't play 2 3s, because why would you have that many 3s? They suck. So your mentality shifts a bit, and each particular mana on each particular curve starts meaning more, and you have to play it differently. Like, controlling the board on turn 3 is not the same as controlling the board on turn 4, and that's not the same as controlling the board on turn 5, which is not the same as controlling the board on turn 6. And that's a concept that almost doesn't exist for the last, like, 2-3 years. So, it just keep that in your mind. I could drill real deep into it in terms of like, well, when a 3/3 hits a 2/2, you know, Merps did a bit of that before with how Harvest Golem works and how 3/3s and 4/3s work. But without going into that much detail for each of these power levels, or for each of these mana curves, just keep an eye out. You know, like when you're playing, like try to think like, oh, I controlled the game on turn 3, then what happened? Or my opponent controlled the game on turn 3, then what happened? And compare that to what happens when you control the game on turn 4 instead. It's going to make your coin decisions even different. You're much less likely to coin 3 into 3. That used to be a pretty crappy thing to do. You do 2 2 3 4, or you know, 0 or like 1 if you happen to have a 1-drop, and then 2, and then coin 4 4 because the 4s are so powerful. And we're going to go back to that.
And in recent metas, it has just been coin 3 into a 4. Like, that is your standard bread and butter. Coin out a 3/4 into a 4/4, or 3/4 into another 3/4. So that has been probably, you know, if we're tracking the use of the coin, turn 2 coin is probably the most common one now. Whereas before, it was just like, wait, like, you have that many 3-drops? First of all, it was like, you had that many 3-drops? Really?
Back in the day, you had 3/3-drops, and you're like, all right, that's pretty good. Do you have like an extra 2-drop to cover for your lack of 3-drops? Yeah, okay, we're good.
Bloodfen Raptor was just about as good as a 3-drop.
It was so sad, but yes.
Yeah.
And remember, we're getting most of the way back there. So if you're also wondering what Bloodfen Raptor is doing, Bloodfen Raptor, this is what the algorithm does, right? It knows how good Bloodfen Raptor is 107 right now. Like, this is not where Bloodfen Raptor would be like 6 months ago. Bloodfen Raptor would be like a 100, maybe a 99 6 months ago. It's a 107 now. It didn't actually get better, but like by itself, because you know, it obviously wasn't a card that anyone buffed or changed. But 3/2s are going to be useful for controlling the meta. So you're going to hear a lot of people say, and it's, you know, we've said it too, you have Henge Clan Hogsteed still super underbucketed, still everywhere. You have Argent Horse Rider, the 3-mana 2/1 charge coming into the meta, really good card. Spring Rocket, 3-mana 2/1 Battlecry, deal 2 damage, also really good, and a mech, also coming back into the meta. So like 3/2s are like not that good, right? Because they get destroyed by all of these. But that's just one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is 3/2s are much better at taking care of 3-drops than 2 3s now. Like, much, much better. So you're now in a rock, paper, scissors game in the early game, which is what makes Hearthstone, which is what makes it very random, which is what people decided they really didn't like. And we're back there. So you're going to put your 3/2 down, and you're going to challenge the 3-drop that comes out, unless the 3-drop is named either Argent Horse Rider or Spring Rocket, or they have a Henge Clan Hogsteed, in which case you're screwed. If that's not the case, then your 2-drop challenges the 3-drop. You get a free 3-drop that sticks on the board to work with your 4-drop to control the board against their 4-drop. On the other hand, if you play a 2/3, that's fine and all when you're battling with other 2-drops. But when your opponent plays a 3-drop, any 3-drop really, they're going to eat your 2-drop, and then they're going to be ahead, right? But of course, if the only 3-drop that they could play is Argent Horse Rider or Spring Rocket, your 2-drop is your 2/3 is gonna work out really well. So this is now the rock paper scissors that's gonna happen in early Curvestone. Throw in Flame Juggler for more RNG, and you are going to just not have a good time. I think, like, compared to the much more complex world that has existed in the new cards that Blizzard have been printing, not these old metas and old cards.
Yep. All right. So this is dropping pretty soon. We're gonna play it, and the thing that we haven't really talked about was the fact that a lot of this, or the exact meta, right? That's in Blizzard's hand because of exactly the levers that they are pulling these days, with the bucketing and the the adjustments. The exact meta will be determined by them. Essentially, it's for us to play and for us to figure out, but we're not shaping the meta. We're literally figuring out the meta. So the shaping of the meta, that's Blizzard. It's for us to sort of figure out what Blizzard has set and then to exploit that as much as possible. But it really is just in Blizzard's hand to say, okay, this class is going to be good now. These classes are going to be bad now. That's really the way it is. For example, with Rogue before, Rogue in the first few weeks, or really first month, right, of like the this past rotation, Rogue was really, really freaking good. You could try to figure out something against it, and yeah, there are pockets here or there, but you can't beat it. Like, it was too much tempo. And I was watching other people's streams as well, and it was, so in my experience, I was like, okay, I played Rogue. Yeah, this is really powerful. Can I identify a weakness? No, I really can't. You can't like out control them because they're too fast for you. When I tried playing really aggressive Hunter, I'm like, I'm actually not fast enough. Lackeys are just that
it's
good.
Rogue. Rogue takes you off the board early on. That's what they've always
Rogue
done.
is way too good. The 1/5 stat line is way too good early game. And then that, like, the lackeys with the backstabs and the eviscerates and everything, I'm just like, wow, they actually have no weakness. So I think that's a good example. And they changed it later on. But that's a good example of Blizzard completely setting the meta, and no matter how much you try to scheme to sort of beat the meta that Blizzard has made for you, there are going to be times in which you just can't, because Rogue is just that good. So there was no secret, or if there was, I don't think anyone figured out. There was no sort of secret plan to be like, oh, Rogue is actually not that powerful. If you just play secret Wind Fury Paladin, you can actually have a really high % chance of beating rogues in arena. No. There was none of that.
I mean, the way to beat rogues back then is to, one, pray, and you pray that they don't have card advantage, and then you play for the card advantage, because you're obviously not going to win the tempo. Rogues in general in every meta is good at taking people off the board early, right? And when they're really, really insanely powerful, they're going to do that a million times better. So you're just going to kind of hope that they low roll their lackeys, and their lackeys don't give them extra cards, and that they didn't get a sprint or like other card draw cards, because they're all very low buckets despite being good cards, and kind of make that work for you and outlast them. It's not a good strategy. It does not have a 50% chance to win, but it's better than the try to fight them on the board strategy. For the upcoming meta, what we're basically saying is, depending on which cards get misbucketed and how Blizzard does micro adjust, we don't know what class is going to be the best or the worst. That's why we talk a lot about neutral cards, because whatever Blizzard does, like, these cards are going to show up a lot in drafts. They're going to show up in every single class, and you're going to have some amount of stability that is done in the neutral settings, almost regardless of what Blizzard does. Like, Blizzard has to have a plan to overbucket all the neutrals in order to disrupt the meta in that way. So yeah, we didn't talk about 1-drops yet. We talked about everything else. Just so you know, there's no 1-drops coming in that's really of any importance. Like, Mekaru is your best 1-drop, but that's more because it is a mech. Otherwise, it's just an Argent Squire. Argent Squires are essentially topping your meta. Clockwork Gnome is coming in. It's gonna be draftable, assuming it's correctly bucketed, but it's not gonna be like game winning or anything like that. So none of the high level one drops from Zombie Chow to Mistress of Mixtures to whatever else we've been seeing. They just not in this meta. Meta starts on 2 for the most part, and then 2s are really good. Drops a bit on 3, then goes back up on 4. Drops a bit on 5, goes huge on 6, and then has some big guys anchoring it.
For those of you who don't remember this anymore, or who have never played in Wild Arena, there's a new skill that you guys will have to either brush off or actually develop, and that is making reads on spare parts. This is a thing, and if you watch really old videos of us, old videos of like Hafu back when she used to play Arena, or Shady, when you get spare parts, it is actually like spare parts were actually pretty cool, and I like them as a mechanic because number one, the effect was pretty small. It's not like lackeys, in which I mean, this is the complaint about like lackeys even before we saw them. I'm just like, they're too powerful and their effects are too different, right? Like way too different for such big effects. And it's hard to get reads because a lot of times I'm just like, I don't know if he wants to evolve this. Like I can't really definitively tell, right? But for spare parts, a lot of times it's like, okay, does is one attack good?
One attack is the easiest read. One attack and one health.
One attack and one health, that's easy. And then if you have seen areas in which they're like, no, if they had that and they didn't play it, then you can be like, okay, I think there's a decent chance they might have to flip one. The flip one is the dangerous one, right? That's like the one in which you're just like, okay, I really got to watch out, especially because, like I said, there's a lot more polarized minions now on their side and on your side. So they might find like really surprise lethal, or they can get a huge tempo swing with that. But I don't mind it so much just because you can now make a lot of reads on it. So when you're thinking of putting down that, like 2/8 minion or something, you can be like, well, okay, based on my reads, first of all, I remember that they still have a spare power. And number two, it's like, well, I have like eliminated just the attack and defense one. The stealth one, there was a good value generator that they should have used it on. So I think it's most likely the flip one. And it's a cool skill to cultivate. It's a very necessary skill. And it was one in which the people who did that the best really eked out a lot of wins because spare parts were quite prevalent. And spare parts will be, pretty prevalent now as well. So get used to doing that. Remember if they have a spare part, and every single turn evaluate sort of like and check off the boxes of what those spare parts were, because that's how the checklist typically goes. You winnow it down until you sort of figure out that it is like a flip spare part, because it's very easy to quickly sort of check the other ones off.
Yep. All these skills coming back that we haven't like had as much importance focused on. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun for the first few weeks at least, and we'll see what happens. The thing we didn't talk about is actual mechs in Rise of Mechs. We didn't talk much about it, but I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You have mechs, you use your mech synergies. Every single class is going to be able to have these mech synergies because very few mech synergies are actually class based. They're almost all neutral based. Mech Mage has one particular card that it runs on, right? But that's just one card, and it's a minion, so it's not going to even pop up all that much. And hopefully they bucket in the very top bucket so that we're all safe from it. But let's move on to classes and kind of do a little bit of an overview on this. Just the really good cards, I guess. I don't know. It depends on it's so hard to go over what cards are actually good or not because it depends on where they bucket them. But we have some general things you can say about classes, assuming they don't totally misbucket these things. So, Druid, I'm going to start off with Druid. It's my pet class in Rise of Shadows because the token archetype was so good and its win rates were so low, and my average is so high with it. It was so nice. It was almost like a very little think class for most of the decks you can draft. But Druid is actually a very high thinking class, which is why people generally don't do as well with them if you're playing mid-range Druid. And you're going to be forced into that a lot more in this new upcoming archetype, mostly because Mark of the Lotus is gone. Your other cards, token generators, your buff alls, all the other cards are still there. So token Druid is still going to be pretty good, but it's not going to be as consistent to draft. And when you don't draft it, you're going to have to fall back on your mid-range, which has plenty of support. Druids are definitely in a good place. Recycle and mulch are being added back, so its major weakness of not being able to deal with hard removals is gone. It's just like flat out gone. You have your 2 hard removals that's ever been printed for Druid that's not naturalized, which is Hall of Fame now, and they're both in this meta. So you just have kind of a very normal class coming in now for Druid, and that's good if you're good at the arena and mid range and just like knowing when to trade, when to go face, knowing how to trade, knowing which minions to play. Those are your kind of like classic Hearthstone arena skills, and Druid will really highlight that. You're not getting much else out of this set. You're gonna get some decent beast synergies. They're back, but recycle and mulch are where your differentiators are.
Yep, sounds good. Also, man, I am not looking forward to Savage Combatant. That thing was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Lost a lot of games to that card.
Turns your hero power into deal 3 damage.
Yep. All right, so let's go to Hunter.
Yeah,
you guys know I love the class. Right now, the card to look forward to is you might have heard tales of this card. All right, like when kids go to sleep at night, their parents warn them of this card that used to plague the arena, and that's Glaivesuka. 2 mana, 2/2 weapon, Battlecry, give a random friendly minion +1 attack. And back in the old days, the dark days, what used to happen was if Hunter had coin, they coined out a 2/3, and if they did that, you knew what was going to happen, and there was no way you could stop it. It was over because all you could do is play a 2/3 that gets dominated by their now 3/3. Or you play a 3/2 that gets super dominated by their 2 attack weapon, and the game was over. Hunter won, GG. So that's coming back, along with Kindly Grandmother, a 2 mana 1/1 beast. Death Rattle summon a 3/2 Big Bad Wolf, which is also a beast. So good early game, which was a staple of Hunter before they decided to really push the Control Hunter archetype for like 6 straight expansions.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. Ursa Tron now actually will draw a mech.
Ursa Tron, now a really good and elite card, whereas
I know
kind of iffy in the prior meta.
Yeah. So a lot of the good cards that you're going to be seeing are going to be small minions. King's Elec, another one. 2 mana 3/2 beast. Battlecry, reveal a minion in each deck. Joust. You guys love Joust, right? And if yours costs more, draw it. So I remember I played this in Super Aggro Hunter as well. And I'm like, all right, well, I have like a 1 in 10 chance of actually drawing a minion, but I'll take that.
It's free. That's right? It's a raptor with an extra ability to get a card sometime.
Yeah. So those are, just looking at our algorithm, those are the high cards. And it just makes sense. We're coming back with sets in which Hunter was a proud noble race, and all they did was go face. All right, they didn't settle down and cultivate value. And
I'm gonna come at this from the exact opposite perspective, which is Control Hunter lost nothing.
They did lose nothing.
Control Hunter still has Unleash the Beast. It still has its Offering Odd bonus. Markshot is still here. Still has all the Offering Odd bonus. What else is doing Control? Eaglehorn Bow, still there, and then Power Shot has come back. You may be thinking like, Mastiff is gone, right? That was a pretty control card, pretty combo card. Okay, fine, but you get Power Shot back, which for 3 mana deals 2 damage to 3 targets. That's kind of like Mastiff, but like way cheaper and like less combo-y. Still, very good replacement. You may be thinking, oh, we lost Infest, right? How are we going to get our card advantage? Well, we're in a mech meta, right? Cyberchip Cybertech Chip is back. That's a card we rate very, very high, and you're getting a whole bunch of mech synergize. You're gonna have mech synergies on top of Cybertech Chip. You also have Ball of Spiders, which is 6 mana for 3 web spinners.
You've always really liked that card.
They're so good. It's just these are ridiculous card advantage cards that don't lose that much tempo. Like that's always an insanely valuable thing to have. So when it comes to Hunter, being able to outlast opponents and being able to get the card advantage on opponents, this is a great set of cards for Hunter to have. Not even Control Hunter. It's more just like Attrition Hunter. Like, it's a weird archetype, but you've seen it. Most Hunters these days are that kind of archetype. So this is going to be a little less combo-y, a little more control-y, but really just more outlast you. And that's going to work just as well as aggro. Because when it comes to aggro, Hunters still have nothing to actually control the board in the early game outside of Glaivezooka. So if you don't get that Glaivezooka, what's your edge? Everyone has 2-drops now, right? Like everybody has these whatever cards. Like Hunters, you're gonna have to go with 1-drops. And where are your 1-drops? Your 1-drops don't exist anymore because your Shimmerfly is your 1-drop now, right? Like this is not gonna be great for getting the board. If you do get the board, you're gonna win. But like the consistency of actually getting the board as an aggro hunter is going to be lower than I think people think.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to next, Mage. Currently the scourge of the arena, despite a not terribly high win rate. Mostly because of Conjurer's Calling. Conjurer's Calling is not going anywhere. So we're still going to be with the same general mage archetype. Conjurer's Calling still destroys one of your minions, which means no one's going to, like, the casuals aren't going to pick it, which means it's not going to be bucketed correctly. You know, we did some tweaking with the algorithm and stuff, and Conjurer's Calling actually went up, like, I don't know, 10 points or 15 points or whatever, from its already existent status as, like, the #1 card in Mage. So it's just, yeah, that's what's happening. Mage basically loses nothing. Like, no good cards outside of Book of Scepters and other card draw cards are going to be lost. And it's not going to gain that much stuff either. Like, the biggest one it gains is actually, like, Unexpected Results, which is a newly buffed card. It used to be 4 mana, it's now going to be 3 mana, summon 2 random 2-cost minions, improved by spell damage. It's just a lot of stats on the board for 3 mana. And remember how bad 3 mana cards are. So it's a nice spot filler in the arena. You get your Shooting Star back at 140 right now. That's 1 mana, deal 1 damage to the minion and the minions next to it. You know, normally that would be an insanely good card to get back, but you're losing Twilight, Flamecaller, which pretty much does the same thing for 3 mana and drops 2/2 body. So it's kind of an even move. But where you're going to get the actual value are these cards. Firelands Portal, coming back. It's not as good as people say. People remember it from back when it dominated the Karazhan meta. But it was never that good. That was like a perfect storm of how Mage and how the meta worked that made it seem that good. But you're going to find Firelands Portal to be a lot less problematic than it was before. Still a 140, still a really good card, but that puts it below things like Piloted Shredder and like Eccentric Scribe. Like, you may be thinking, wait, am I supposed to take a Scribe over a Firelands Portal? Yeah, it's a better card. But yeah, still a good card. Still good to have. Goblin Blast Mage we talked about before. That's your mech user for Mage. And then you have Flamelands coming in to give a hard removal. It's 5 mana, deal 8 damage to a minion. Basically a hard removal option that Mage has gotten that it didn't have before. And then Flame Cannon is also back. 2 mana, deal 4 damage to a random enemy. A small removal option that Mage didn't have before. So Mage is getting better. It's getting more versatile. Its top cards are the same as it was before, but it's like low premium or just like above average cards are getting such a huge bump. Like, Mage is going to be really good, I think, in this upcoming meta.
Sounds pretty good. All right, next we got Paladin. Paladin was sort of the kind of just the forgotten child of this rotation. I think it was always decent, but it was never like, you know, no one really talked about Paladin, right?
Yeah, no one seemed to have fun playing Paladin, and no one did it.
Yeah, it was never the class that people talked about as problematic, but it was also never the class that was, people were just like, "Oh man, it sucks. Like it really needs that much
Well,
help."
you know why? It's because the hand buffs were super over bucketed by Blizzard, and that kind of destroyed
Yeah.
what was supposed to be fun about Paladin in this meta. And once that was gone, it was kind of like, all right, so we're just playing normal Paladin now.
Yeah, basically. So Paladin is back. They haven't really gained that much except for Shota
What?
Minibot.
What?
But
Paladin hasn't gained that much? What?
no, no. I will tell. I will say. So the minion that you're looking for is shielded
Uh huh.
Minibot in terms of minions.
Yeah.
But remember how we said that there's a dearth of 3-drops, right? Well, Paladin for the longest time, the reason why it plagued the arena for so long is because whereas all the other classes had weak turn threes, Paladin always had the strongest turn threes, like by far the strongest turn threes. Other classes were just being like, well, if we could keep up, that's fine. Paladins looked at turn 3 as like, okay, this is where I win the game. Like, this is where I capitalize. And while my opponent doesn't have that many options, I will play a premium 3-cost card. And the premium cards that you're looking at are Seal of Champions, which is a 3-mana
Oh, so good.
spell, which is give a minion 3 attack and Divine Shield. You're looking at Muster for Battle, 3 mana, summon 3/1/1 recruits, and also equip a 1/4 weapon. All right. And you're looking at Coghammer, 3 mana, 2/3 weapon, battle cry, give a random friendly minion Divine Shield and Taunt. So if your 2-drop sticks, you just win the game right there. If your 2-drop doesn't stick, 3 mana for a 2/3 weapon is very good still. It's
Yeah,
very fair.
Cockhammer is a WTF card because
I know.
like Shaman has this weapon that's really good and no one complains about that basically costs 3 mana and is a 2/3 weapon. And
Yep.
Cockhammer just went in and it's like, okay, let's also give Divine Shield to something, which is normally worth a card and 1 mana, and then give it Taunt too. Why? I don't know, just cuz. Like I would love to have been the balance like meeting of how like Cockhammer was designed. It
I
like
know. So you add those 3 cards to Outdoor Peacekeeper, which they've always had, and this is why Paladin was hated for one of the reasons. One of the reasons why Paladin was so hated for such a long time, just because it was the difference between turn threes for any other class and Paladin was night and day.
mhm.
And to get that big of an advantage that early on means you just win.
And,
So
and remember, it's not like paladins are going to then roll over on turn 4. Turn 4 was the classic paladin's power turn with True Silver, Consecration, Blessing of Kings, all that good stuff. So when you got these new like early expansions, turn 3 was amazing. Turn 4 was still amazing. Like turn 2 was really damn good too. Like what are you going to do?
mhm. So to give you guys a quick idea of those cards and how good they are, so Shota Minibot is going to be close to a 160. I don't think anyone is that surprised there. And Shota Minibot has about the same score as a Muster for Battle. So these are cards that have still aged very, very well. These are not Zombie Chows, right? You have Zombie Chows and you have Haunted Creepers. I think people by now like get what I'm talking about, right? And Shoot a Minibot and Muster for Battle are certainly cards that still have aged well, at least for this rotation, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in 2 years we'll have a weird rotation, and I'll just be like, no, Muster for Battle really sucks.
Well, Muster for Battle hasn't aged well in that I think back in the day people would think it's a 200. So it definitely like got knocked down a peg.
That's
but
fair.
It got knocked down a peg to 160, which is like yeah, at 160, I just considered a card unbalancedly overpowered, and Paladin always has a number of these cards.
Yeah, yeah. And Seal of Champs is a little bit below that. It's gonna fall a little bit under 140, so still premium. But obviously, because you need a minion, it's not like Muster that you can just like put out whenever. But all of them get super dominated by Coghammer, which is going to be close to 200. And I don't think a lot of people will disagree with that as well. Coghammer is just stupidly good.
Yeah.
It doesn't require any finesse. That's the thing. Some good cards require a bit of finesse, you look at Coghammer, and then you look at Stormforge Axe, and you're just like, okay, Stormforge Axe is a really, really good card. WTF for Coghammer?
It's not even like you need an archetype too. Like if you have a Divine Shield and you're on the board, oh, that's really good, right? But what if you're off the board? You have a taunt with a Divine Shield on it. That's exactly what you want. Like, it's just it's a no think card that is just really overpowered. It's the best card coming into the game that is not a legendary. And yeah, I mean Doom's coming out, so but Doom was like Doom is not 3 mana. Like Doom is a win the game at like 10, you know. But yeah, and there's ways to play around Doom. You can't play around Coghammer. So Merps is going through some 3 mana stuff. The old school 3 mana stuff, Aldor is a 160, right? So that's still very much around kicking. And the 2s are not bad either. You still have your Mysterious Blade at 130. That's the new ROS 2-drop 2 mana weapon. And you're going to get another 2 mana weapon, an Argent Lance, coming in. That's at a 147 because you joust and you could get, again, a Stormforge Axe. Like Argent Lance is a Stormforge Axe for 2 mana whenever you win a joust, and otherwise it's 2 mana to 2 weapon. That's just insane stuff. In fact, there are so many of these cards. When you're drafting, you're going to have to try to make sure that they don't run into each other. Like you don't want to Argent Lance and then muster for battle. You know, Argent Lance is a great 2-drop, muster for battle is a great 3-drop, but you kind of have to actually kind of draft around what you currently have. And the other thing that happens is, like, Silver Sword's gone, right? That was an anchor in Paladin for the last few metas, but no one cares that Silver Sword is gone, because what Silver Sword was doing on turn 8, you are now going to do on turn 3.
Yeah. And who doesn't want games being decided much, much earlier on, right?
Then you can lower right, you know, and concede much quicker. Better use of your time.
The 200 IQ plays from Blizzard. If games are decided earlier, more games will happen. Except for the people that quit. Except for those people. But yeah, that's what Paladin is kind of looking at. And once again, look, we're talking about all these good cards, but that's as far as we can say. We can't say because of this, Paladin is going to dominate the meta because Blizzard decides this. If Blizzard decides all of these are going in the Paladin first bucket, and we're going to micro adjust these down like crazy because we remember everyone complaining about Paladin, there is nothing anyone can do to overcome Blizzard's thumb on the scale, right? It's like what we talked about with Rogue. It's like what we talked about with Warriors back when they were dumpster tier, right? It's like no matter what you do, you're not going to figure something out. You're not going to cheat the system, essentially, because it's so scaled heavily against you. So, yeah, I mean, I can totally picture Paladin taking over the meta, but Blizzard can also just say no. And once again, there's nothing that you can do. You're not going to figure anything out. You're not going to, well, unless you figure out some way to draft more like good cards.
Yep.
That's the only way.
I also want to make one more point here about Glowstone Technician. This was 6 mana, 3/4 battlecry. Give all minions in your hand +2/+2 card from Boomsday. They lowered it by 1 mana. So we were really high on it when it came out on Boomsday. It didn't end up doing that great, and so we dropped it a bit. But it's back up now. It's a 150 almost, because they dropped it a mana. And if you have minions in your hand, it gets +2/+2. You have minions in your hand because you're a paladin and you have a lot of minions, and you have that dragon card, the Bronze Herald, that's just adding more minions into your hand. So, give that card a shot. See if it performs better now that Blizzard's lowered it by 1 mana. But we think it's pretty premium. It's an epic minion, though. It's not like you're going to see it a lot. But when you do see it, it's an interesting card. It doesn't quite fit with what the Paladins try to do these days. But, here's a problem also with old school games, which you're going to see more of. There's really not a lot of card draw. And again, that's what makes Hunter's card advantage so good, because it's actually one of the few classes with significant card draw. So Hunters have card draw, Mages have a decent amount of card draw, Priests obviously have some card draw, Warlocks have their innate card draw. That's it. Your other classes are all gonna struggle for card draw. So anything that's just like adding more cards into your hand is going to be very, very good if the meta is not like super fast.
Yeah. All right, let's quickly go over the rest of this stuff. We've been going for long enough.
Yeah, I mean the new rotations here. I think we could go for a little longer. For priest, I don't know. Like it's the same priest, right? Like nothing much is happening. You're losing some of your 3-drop anchors, right? You lose both your 3/4s that buff stuff, so you can't just start on 3 anymore. The popular
Their best
thing,
new card isn't even a new card.
yeah,
It's a buff card.
So your old strategy in ROS as priest is to just actually not have 2s. It was one of the only classes where you can start on 3 and be successful the vast majority of times in ROS. You can't do that anymore because you lost your 2 good 3-drops, and you know that's kind of bad. That's what was anchoring you, and all the other 3-drops we've talked about before now kind of suck. So instead, you're gonna have to be at 2, and when you're at 2. There's Evil Conscriptor becomes that much better. Your Norshar Clerics are still very, very good. But more importantly, if you're starting at 2, then you're going to want to be able to buff your stuff, right? Because you're committing a lot to being on the board early. And the way to buff your stuff now is extra arms. 2 mana now instead of 3 mana. Give a minion +2/+2, twin spell. So it's a Blessing of Kings on speed and crack and all sorts of stuff. It's going to be good. I don't know what else there is to say about it, but your archetype is pretty much set, right? Valens is coming back also to add to that archetype. You're going to get stuff on the board. You're going to buff them. You're going to get other stuff that can't be removed still, like Hench Clan Shadequill, and they're going to get buffed. You still have Omega Medic. That's a thing. So you do have a 3 mana 3/4 that's still in your arsenal that you'll get more than other people. But your other card coming in is Shrinkmeister. 2 mana 3/2 Battlecry, give a minion -2 attack this turn. That's like at a 140 right now, and that works really well if you're coining out 2s into 2s. So, like the thing to remember about like GVG and TGT Priest is that they were pretty aggro. Like these are not the sit back and control the board type priest that you had seen like 6 months ago, and they don't start on 3 like the ROS priest that you've seen before. Priest is one of the most aggressive classes when it comes to drafting, and then when it comes to playing, they're like trade all the time, never go face, because you need to preserve the board to heal and use your hero power, right? But yeah, it's a play style that you've been shifting into, and the shift is going to completely happen with this rotation.
Yep, that's priest. Yay.
All right. So yeah, you want to talk about Rogue?
Yeah, sure. Rogue used to be once again a noble face class, just like Hunter. Before they got all of these like control options, before all they did was sort of 1-drop and then dagger turn 2, or like don't do anything and dagger turn 2 and play towards this like mid-game flip route. Rogues used to be really, really fast and capable of just going as aggressive as Hunters. And we're going to see a little bit of that back. So the highest rated card that is coming back is Buccaneer. 1 mana 2/1 Pirate. Whenever you equip a weapon, give it +1 attack. So Buccaneer turn 1 into turn 2 dagger. That is definitely a thing. We're getting Undercity Valiant back. 2 mana 3/2 combo, deal 1 damage. Just really useful. Vanilla stats, an extra damage here or there.
That card's deceptively amazing.
Yeah.
Like that 1 damage comes in so handy. Like it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal. You just add a 1 damage sometimes. You can't even do it when you're playing on curve. But oh my god, like how it controls the board in the first 3 turns.
It's really good. And we're getting Goblin Auto Barber back. So these 2 cards that I just named, Auto Barber and Undercity Valiant, these cards have been gone for quite a while because Arena went standard. But even before then, for balance purposes, Blizzard took away cards from good classes.
Lots of cards from Rogue.
Yeah. Took away lots of cards from Rogue, took away some cards from Mage as well. and then took away bad cards for the bad classes. But these were two cards that were taken away, so it's been a while since we've seen stuff like Valiant and Goblin Auto Barber. So Goblin Auto Barber is 2 mana, 3/2 mech, very important. Battlecry, give your weapon +1 attack. So if you see the rogue coin out a dagger on turn 1, it's probably Auto Barber. Like, they also do it with Bloodsail Raiders sometimes, but it's most likely Goblin Auto Barber. And then you're going to see that play come back. Like, these days, you almost never see them coin out dagger and do nothing, right? That's, like, weird. But with Goblin Auto Barber, they did that, and they don't feel that bad about it, because if you play a 3/2, which, remember, 3/2 meta, right? If you play a 3/2, they just dominate you right away, and they probably win. This is like the Glaive-Zuka thing as well. And if you play a 2/3, well, okay, so you just trade, but then they have a 2/2 weapon, which on turn 2 is still really good. So there's no losing for them if they do that, and something you guys need to watch out for once again.
Yep. And I'm reading chat right now, and people still don't believe, like, everyone's buying into this hype of 3/2s being useless because of some additional things that deal 2 damage. The whole meta is gonna change, guys. The bottom is gonna fall out on 3-drops, and your 3/2s being able to challenge 3-drops is gonna be worth as much as your 2/3's ability to withstand a 2/1 rush minion or a 2 damage thing. So 3/2s are definitely far from useless, far from unplayable. Not worse, but actually better than 2/3s.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of ways that you can punish 3/2s, just because that is, like, you're going to see a decent number of them. You're going to see a decent number of them. So we want to tell you how to beat them. But we don't want to essentially give you the impression that it's like, oh, well, so they're not a problem, because these are, like, you've just listed, like, all these ways that you can beat 3/2s. It's like, no. It's definitely exploitable, and you should definitely try to do that. And
it's gonna feel worse when you lose a 3/2 than a 2/3.
Yeah. But just because of the amount of 3-drops that you guys have been used to, that's going to decrease in, like, numbers and in quality as well. So yeah, Spider Tank is here, but we're gonna be missing a lot of the powerful 3-drops, and just the numbers by themselves, once again, caveat, unless Blizzard does something weird, you are just not going to get as many 3-drops, and the 3-drops that you get, they're just not going to be that good.
Yep. All right, so that's Rogue. They're gonna take you off the board in the beginning. The 2 cards in Auto Barber and Valiant, the reason Blizzard banned those cards and not other really good Rogue cards is because they were really good at controlling the board in the beginning, which made it very unfun for other players who didn't have a chance on the board. And this was a time when getting the board early was always very important. So they're not random cards that Blizzard just took away. Like, Blizzard sat down and thought about it before doing this. And they're back now. And so Rogue's ability to take you off the board in the early going, which is already pretty good, is getting a shot in the arm that it doesn't kind of need. So Rogues are going to be pretty good coming into this meta, unless Blizzard micro-adjusts it beforehand. Because remember, they still have an excess of hard removals, they still have Evil Miscreant, like, they still have their stuff. And yes, they were over-nerfed in the prior meta, but they're going to be back to even in this meta if Blizzard doesn't touch them, just from the better cards coming in. Okay. I want to talk about Shaman. Shaman's going to be so cool. Shaman's going to be so cool because they still have Walking Fountain, which makes control very, very viable. And in addition to Hagatha's Scheme, they are going to get back 1 Maelstrom Portal, 2 mana, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions, summon a random 1-cost minion. So very overpowered, kind of like premium board clear. And they are also going to get Elemental Destruction, 3 mana, deal 4 to 5 damage to all minions, overload 5. So your control Shaman archetype, and remember, again, there's a lot of 2-drops coming in this meta. There's a lot of people that's going to be going out a bit faster than before. Card draws are going down. Fewer taunts are available, which incentivizes people to go face more, which incentivizes people to put down more small stuff. Like when you got board clears, you got board clears, and you'll wreck someone's day. Like really good decks will go down. And shamans have board clears. They have the RNG taunt totem that can come in, and they're pretty excellently situated as a control class now in a way that they haven't been for a while.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
I'm not too excited about shamans.
I'm just excited about that part of shamans. Your other normal shaman, also, Bloodlust still in the game, Flame Tongue Totem still in the game.
Yeah. Get ready to lose to turn 2 Whirling Zap.
Whirling Zap, yeah. Hide that behind a taunt.
That's it.
Bad things are going to happen. Stormforge Axe controls the board still in the beginning. Thunderhead got a buff. It's not only coming back, but it was a 3/5 after you play a card with Overload, summon 2/1/1 Sparks with Rush. Now it's a 3/6 for some reason. So it's going to be really good. Your aggressive shamans or like your board control shamans are still going to work, and we don't have the number yet for this because it's one of the most complicated cards that freaking exist in this game. But I need to find this over here. Thunderbluff Valiant is coming back, and that's a game ender by itself. Once you have the board, it has 6 health. It is 5 mana, 3/6. Inspire, give your totems +2 attack. So when it comes to like getting a lot of tokens on the board and buffing them, it's not just Bloodlust anymore with Flame Tongue Totem. You also have a Thunderbluff Valiant. You also have that like legendary like card that transforms all your minions into legendaries, and that one got reduced by 1 mana too. Blizzard buffed it. And on top of all that, you have your neutral card that's really good that is coming back. Not just Stormwind Champion, but also Mukla's Champion, sorry. Which is a 5 mana, this is a neutral card. 5 mana, 4/3, Inspire, give your other minions +1/+1. So, all of this is going to come together, and I think shamans are just going to be very flexible. You could draft them control, you could draft them, normal, spread the board, mid-range / tokeny. It's all going to work pretty well, I think.
Yep. All right, on to Warlock, which has just been on top of the meta for a decent amount in this rotation. So Warlocks, they should not like fall off a little bit. They should, but they are still getting. I mean,
well, why don't you just drop the bomb? Just drop the bomb on what's coming back.
Well, all right. First, everyone's favorite RNG card, Implosion. This is a card I remember when it was played in Constructed as well. It was just you play Implosion and you just say, "All right, well, one of us is winning the game at this point." That's it.
Yep.
Where if I only deal 2 damage and summon 2 imps, that's it. And if I deal 4 damage and summon 4 imps, well, I just got like the best card that ever existed. So yeah, Implosion. For those of you who don't know, 4 mana, deal 2 to 4 damage to a minion. Summon a 1/1 imp for each damage dealt.
So it's either 4 mana, deal 2 damage, summon 2 1/1 imps, which is pretty good.
It's okay.
Or it's 4 mana, deal 4 damage, summon 4 1/1 imps,
which is like the best card ever printed.
Yep.
And it's somewhere in between there, right? It's going to be one of those. It's going to be like a passable card, or it's going to be a 300 rated card. So the swings are so huge. But anyways, that's coming
imps
back.
are demons too, just for the hell of it.
They are demons, yes, definitely. We get Dark Bomb again. That used to be a staple for Warlocks. So now they have some early damage. It can also go face as well.
Yeah, and
so Dark Bomb.
Let's not forget Spirit Bomb is coming back too.
Mm-hmm.
That's it used to be a 2 mana. There's a Boomsday card. 2 mana, deal 4 damage to a minion and your hero. Now it's only 1 mana.
Yeah.
So it's like a really good card now.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, if you look at it, this is just Soulfire, right? Soulfire, except you discard a card or you deal 4 damage to your face. It's like I'd rather deal the damage.
Oh, of course.
Like, oh yeah. So Spirit Bomb. Well, this also can't go face, but
yeah.
A lot of times you'd rather just deal damage to your face instead of randomly discarding a card. That always feels bad because you never know which one you're going to discard. So once again, just like with Priest, Warlock gained something significant in the buffs because Spirit Bomb is now like quite good. But they didn't gain like all of the sort of game-winning cards that a lot of other classes gained.
What? I think you're burying the lead so hard here.
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, the best card to come back is not Implosion.
See, I disagree with this one, but
it's Omega Agent. Omega Agent is coming back.
Well, no. We didn't have to talk about that. Everyone knows about it.
Oh, okay. It's just we just assume everyone knows Omega Agent's coming back.
I thought you were going to talk about Dark Bargain.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Dark Bargain too. That's going to be a little more controversial, I think. But
I know
Omega Agents is back, and we all know how game winning that card was.
We don't have to talk about that.
So yeah, that's a thing. It's rated almost a 200. This is right up there with Coghammer.
See, we also have to see how fast the meta is going to be.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So the memory that you guys had of Omega Agent, that was also the best meta possible for Omega Agent. Like going to turn 10 was really, really easy because all like the other classes just trended towards going turn 10, first of all. And second of all, Warlocks had a lot more tools to get them to turn 10. So they're losing some tools, and I would be surprised if the meta was as slow as the one in which Omega Agent sort of plagued, the arena. So still really, really good. Let's not go too far, but it probably won't give you the same nightmares as it used to.
Yep. So overall, so Dark Bargain is also coming back. I think that's the card Merps refers to. We have a rated very high on the tier list. It's one of my favorite cards in terms of like just the power level. Destroy 2 random enemy minions for 6 mana. Discard 2 random cards. So if you're playing the game the way you should be playing the game, I think, as Warlock, you're not going to have many cards by the time that you're around, like, I don't know, 8 mana. And so Dark Bargain rarely discards 2 cards unless it's in an emergency, and you don't have to kill 2 large things. You just got to kill 1 large thing, and then whatever else you kill is kind of gravy. And I love this card in a push the board kind of archetype. And that's where Warlock's going, right? Like, you're going to have good ways to get the board in the beginning with some over tempoed cards, and you're going to try to use your neutral cards to establish yourself, maybe some mechs or whatever. The control Warlock archetype that you see get played sometimes in the current meta, and definitely in prior metas, it's not going to work too well anymore because you don't have Felfire Potion, you don't have Abyssal Enforcer. Yeah, like Dark Bargain is not really a replacement for that because it's, you need to hit opponents' stuff to control where what your targets are, and so there's just not a lot of that happening. So you're really kind of forced into a on the board protect your face zoo type play, and like you still have Hellfire, you still have Twisting Nether, Shadow Flame, but I don't think it's going to be enough. So yeah, another thing to watch out for is Spell Cannon's coming back, especially if you're doing a more mechy archetype. This is always a weird card. 4 mana, 3/5. At the end of your turn, deal 2 damage to a non-mech minion, which is great when you first play it because you have more control over it. But then afterwards, after it lives a turn, it's gonna like potentially hit your minions. Like, things get crazy afterwards. Always an interesting card to hit the board. And Floating Watcher is definitely a thing. 5 mana, 4/4. Whenever your hero takes damage on your turn, gain +2/+2. So it's like a 5 mana 6/6. If you like hero power on the same turn, which would be turn 7, and then if it doesn't die, it's gonna grow even bigger. Definitely a bomb in the arena.
Yep. All right. On to Warriors, the last class.
And we mean the last class, as in the last class win rate wise, and that is not going to
change. Who knows? I mean, they could get micro-adjusted up like crazy, but probably not. But let's go with the biggest theme, which is the return of the almighty turn 5 weapon for Warrior. They've always had Arcanite Reaper. That's never changing. But what has happened is they are getting back Super Collider. Nothing needs to be said about that. You guys should know how good Super Collider was and still is. And Fool's Bane. Fool's Bane is a 5 mana, 3/4 weapon, unlimited attacks each turn, cannot attack heroes. So it's like a Soul Thrace, right? Like we've dealt with Soul Thrace before. Fool's Bane is just another version of that. But this is back. So what does this mean? Really, like the AoE potential, or like the pseudo AoE potential on turn 5 of Warriors is back in play here. So you have to worry about Super Collider positioning once again. Going into turn 5, you have to think about Fool's Bane and be like, well, okay, do I keep 2 minions at 3 health, or am I able to do like a 4 health one plus a 1 health one, right? Like something like that. And you should think about these things. And what it also means is whenever Warriors have these tools at their disposal, you need to think about being aggressive going phase. And that might just naturally happen. But these are 2 weapons in which if you don't put enough pressure and you freely allow the Warrior to just use their health and get all the charges out of these weapons, the Warrior probably wins. But then they also probably lose because their cards are crappy.
So yeah, I mean, they're not getting a lot because this was during the period of, Arena Warriors not mattering. And so the cards are all kind of crap, but the big weapons are here. And also Crush is back. I like Crush.
It's good. It's good.
7 mana destroy a minion. If you have a damaged minion, this costs 4 mana less, which makes it 3 mana. So it's just a little more consistency along with Execute, which is nice to have. But yeah, you're gonna run on your weapons. These new big weapons. You have King's Defender coming back, which is a 3 mana 3/2 battle cry. If you have a minion with taunt, gain +1 durability. So this is the power creeped Fiery War Axe, but it actually existed before the Fiery War Axe got nerfed. So it's also really good. Like, you're getting a lot of very good weapons coming in. So I know Death Spite is leaving and everyone's sad about it, but there's really more than enough amazing weapons to take its place. Omega Assembly is also back. That's always an insanely highly rated card. And remember, the card draw is very rare in this meta. So Omega Assembly is actually very, very useful. Just even ignoring the fact that it's a mech meta and you're getting mechs. Just to have that kind of card draw. Like, Warriors don't have consistent card draw. It gets its card advantage through weapons, right? Through these gigantic weapons that have multiple charges. So you throw a Omega Assembly in there, and you can really lock down your card advantage against a lot of archetypes and a lot of classes in this meta. I don't know. It's still going to suck. Just they don't have good cards outside of weapons, basically. And I don't know what people are going to do with it. Like, what you want to do, like what the current best warrior archetype is, it's kind of like Tempo Warrior, and then use your weapons to the face to finish them off. Super Collider doesn't do that. Fool's Bane literally can't attack face. Like, Gorehowl just deals 7 to the face, which is a lot, but like its better use is to repeatedly hit the board. So you have Arcanite Reaper, which is still 10 damage to the face. And then that's kind of the same old. You've lost your Death Spite. You
need to try to play Tempo Warrior, and you still draft Super Collider, but essentially you have to get out there fast, and then you use Super Collider to protect your board, and then essentially like finish off the game by going face and taking a few risks. Because like you said, taunts are not here anymore. Right, yeah. So they can't just play essentially that one Furious Etten. They can't just play that one Bog Creeper, which nullifies your small minions and your Super Collider at the same time. And also, if they were to play, let's say, a big taunt like a Sunwalker, right? Then they still have Crush as well. So that's the only way that you can play. It's not going to be that successful, but that really is the only way, and it's a lot. It's a lot less synergistic than the playstyle in which you paired up Super Collider with the Warpaths and Executes and the Dragon Roars and everything. That was a much better sort of fit for Super Collider. But there's still uses for Super Collider here. It's just not as good, and the Warrior package has been diluted quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say about Warrior. I'm probably not going to touch Warrior until they micro adjust it, because it's going to be terrible, I think. And then once they micro adjust it, we'll see what crazy things we can come up with when we are guaranteed to have 2 Gorehouse, 2 Super Gliders, and anything else we want, right?
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
That's all the classes. I think this Lightforge went on for long enough. Yeah. I don't know. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for the new meta coming in?
6.
6?
Yeah.
Yep. I think I'm at like a 4. Mostly because I could like see what's about to happen, and I remember a lot of the stuff that is like it's good. I think if you've never played in the old metas before, this should be pretty exciting. It's all new. You have to pick up new skills. You're in a new meta. If you've seen it before, I'm like, all right, I'll be nostalgic about it, and it'll be interesting for like a week or so. But then there's no chance in hell they're going to be able to balance this and make it fun at the same time. And I think they know that. And that's why they put it out now, because between ROS and what they've done before, it was never going to be good anyway. So they're kind of getting this like into the fun zone, because they frankly can't deliver at this point on the actual balance zone. So I'm a little sad about that, but hopefully we'll get to the more balanced stuff when the next expansion comes out. Yeah. Card you want to play the most. Single card you want to play the most for nostalgic reasons or for whatever.
Enhanto Mechano.
Oh my god, I forgot.
That's an easy one.
What the hell did we rate Enhanto Mechano?
I don't know. I haven't checked. Let's see.
It's a 108. That's right. That's about right. If you guys don't remember Enhanto Mechano, it's a 4-mana 3/2 Battlecry. Give your other minions randomly Wind Fairy, Taunt, or Divine Shield. They don't do the same things at all.
No, they don't. And also, if you have a Taunt minion, they can still get Taunt.
Yep. Same with Wind Fairy, same with Divine Shield. Oh god, I remember this card.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm glad it's not that good, but it's still relevant. 108 is nothing to sneeze at. It's also a mech. Okay. All right. The card that I'm actually really excited to see come back, that I haven't mentioned before, because I mentioned some of the obvious ones. Tournament attendee.
Wow, you are boring as hell. Holy crap.
It's a 1-mana 2/1 taunt. It should never leave the meta.
That was like even more boring than I thought. Okay. All right, that's fine.
Hey, at least I didn't say Pit Fighter, okay?
I don't. It's all whatever at this point. Okay.
I get happy every time I see someone play this card. I don't draft it a lot, but whenever I see my opponents play it, I'm like, oh, tournament attendees in the game. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. Okay. Any last words? I have one more thought before we end this, but
do it.
Okay. So the last thought is, we've been kind of purposefully burying the lead to this whole entire thing of what the best card is. This is like one of the best cards, period, neutral or not neutral, and it is a neutral card, and it is coming back into the meta. And I just want to warn you guys about it. And it's a little controversial, but if you've been around, you've heard us talk about Banshee a lot. If you've seen our 12-win runs, you've seen us get 12 wins with Banshee a lot, until they basically took him out of the game, and then literally took him out of the game with the rotations. So Banshee's not coming back, but what is coming back is a card from GVG called Fel Reaver. Fel Reaver is a 5-mana 8/8 epic. It is a mech, but that doesn't matter. Whenever your opponent plays a card, remove the top 3 cards of your deck. So once this comes out, your opponent, being dumb, will try to mill you. They will not hit the Fel Reaver, they will try to mill your entire deck. You will then win. If you see a Fel Reaver, you then need to try to kill the Fel Reaver. It is a 5-mana 8/8. That means your opponent is really, really far ahead if you're trying to kill a 5-mana 8/8. This is a terribly designed card when it comes to any kind of balance or strategy, for Arena at least. It is potentially a well-designed card in terms of allowing good players to win more than bad players. there is a lot of randomness because your opponent could actually successfully mill you, and vice versa, if they just happen to have a lot of very low mana costing cards, or a lot of freezes, or a lot of very small taunts that you can't get through. So it's not like this card has no downside. But this card's going to come in as pretty much the best neutral ever made. And it's going to be better than any of the other neutral, like non-legendary neutral cards in this game. And every time you see it, it also mills your own deck, so it's going to be very under-bucketed. Hopefully it's in like the 7th bucket or something silly, and we just don't see it because it's terrible for the meta. But assuming this is in a relevant bucket, like 4 or 5 or something, you will take this pretty much almost whenever you see it. Unless your deck is so good that you can't take the small RNG of your opponent actually successfully milling you. And yeah. There's not much else to say about this card. Just don't screw up. Don't be afraid to take it unless your deck is very, very good. And oftentimes the correct thing to do with Fel Reaver is to hit your opponent to the face. So yeah, best card in the game.
Seems pretty good to me.
And yeah, okay. That's it for the Lightforge. We didn't have a card good bad because we're doing this. We didn't have a question from the GOAT because I think question from the GOAT is, I'm just gonna do a quick question from the GOAT. Merps, you're back. Are you back? When
I'm
are you
not
back?
But I am back. So you guys will see me for Sunday Lightforges. You won't see me during my normal Monday streams just yet. I will let you guys know when I am back. But for right now, expect me to hold down the fort for these podcasts, and I'll be playing some Hearthstone here or there. I got to make sure I stay, relevant, stay on top, give you guys actual data, not just sort of like hearsay from other streamers. So I'll be playing a little bit, but you guys won't see me on my regular streams for now.
But also, the Coop is back after the Lightforge.
It is.
So you guys who are watching it on YouTube can have that to look forward to. And yeah, that's Merps' status of how much back he is. And we are going to do a Arena Coop right now. The Arena Coop account, by the way, has not been open since the rotation, so there's still like the year of the whatever switching, and we don't know what class we're gonna play, so this will be interesting. Anyway, see you guys next time on the Lightforge. Until next time, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. See ya.